Hello everybody, welcome to the Sachsenring as we get set for the first track action of the weekend. We've got two free practice sessions coming up today for the DTM, the first of which gets underway in less than 5 minutes time. It's going to be the longer of the two sessions at 55 minutes. And we're here at the Sachsenring just a couple of weeks after the most recent round at the Nürburgring. 3 weekends to go in this year's championship, including this weekend. And then after this, we'll be headed to the Red Bull Ring and to Hockenheim in just over 6 weeks' time for the season finale and what's been a thrilling championship season so far. So the Sachsenring, fantastic circuit. If you've never been, never heard of it, come at some point. It is a terrific venue. It's a really quick, old-school racetrack. Lots of big undulations, lots of big, brave corners where the drivers have to be really on it and committed. The drivers love it. We love being here. And there you can see the current championship standings. The man that you're looking at is the championship leader, Lucas Auer. 137 points, only 8 points clear, though, of Jack Aitken, who was one of the 2 race winners last time out at the Nürburgring. Had a good Saturday, not such a good Sunday. Jack didn't score points in the Sunday race. Aitken had got the championship lead on Saturday night, but by the time they left the circuit, it was Lucas Auer back in the lead. Jordan Pepper in his first full season of the championship, going great guns in the TGI Grasser Lamborghini. He's third, the South African, and this is the circuit where he made his DTM debut last year, and the guest appearance, which was pretty explosive at times, but he showed what great speed he had, and he's doing a terrific job in the championship this year. Jordan just 15 points off the championship lead. René Rast was the other winner at the Nürburgring, had a fantastic race on Sunday from 6th on the grid and moved himself up to 4th place in the championship with what was the German driver's 30th career victory in the DTM Championship. So there you can see the view that we have. We're just to the left of that picture in the commentary boxes overlooking the start-finish line. And there in the background of the shot, you can see this big climb they have coming out of the final turn, turn 13. It's even steeper than it looks there. They come out of the slowest corner of the lap. The last turn is a second gear corner, 120 kilometers an hour. You have to get the exit absolutely spot on because you've got this huge climb uphill just to get back up over the crest onto the start finish line. And if you mess the exit speed up there, you will be toast down the straight. They'll all come charging past you. So René Rast at the Nürburgring, good weekend, certainly a good Sunday overall, but saying that this is a circuit that traditionally has not suited the BMW, so he wasn't feeling overwhelmingly confident about coming here. However, everybody has had a chance to acclimatise because there was a ADAC official test day here last Sunday. So 2 test sessions, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and all the DTM drivers had a chance to tune themselves in. Pretty similar conditions than we've got here as well. It's around about 20 degrees when they had the test last week. It's just about 16 degrees at the moment. Overcast. It's going to get warmer and sunnier as the weekend goes on, but not as hot as we have had it here for the last couple of years. It's going to be about 23, maybe 24 degrees. It has been up in the high 20s and early 30s here in previous seasons. So that's the scenario. We're in the east of Germany. The nearest city is Chemnitz, which is about a 25-minute drive from here, about 20 kilometers away. We're just under 100 kilometers away from Dresden. And this venue, steeped in history, goes, like the Nürburgring, all the way back to the 1920s, where the Sachsenring first became a race venue. And like the Nordschleife, on public roads as well. First race around here was held back in 1927. It was not officially named the Sachsenring until 1937, 10 years after that. And originally it was a much longer track, nearly 9 kilometers long, running on public roads through the local village. And really formed as a motorcycle racing track, and MotoGP still come here as a part of their World Championship season. We had a big break from DTM coming here. It was a 20-year break before we came here in 2023, and then came here and had events in 2023 and 2024. Mercedes with Lukas Stolz and Mirko Bortolotti in the Lamborghini were the winners in 2023. Last year, Jack Aitken was a race winner in the Ferrari, and Lukas Stolz won again in the Mercedes. It was actually the first Mercedes win for a year when we came here last, but Mercedes have been going much better in this year's championship, leading the manufacturer standings and leading the Drivers' Championship with Lucas Auer, who has basically, apart from for one day, led the entire championship season thus far, having won the first round of the season way back in the spring at Oschersleben. So Timo Glock and Ben Durr and the McLarens lead the charge out onto the track for 55 minutes of free practice one here at the Sachsenring. Let's introduce ourselves then as we get going. My name's Chris Hartley, and alongside me in the commentary box as always, it's hello to Brian Oliver.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, everybody watching us around the world. This is one of the absolute highlights of the season. So many people love this place. Arguably, one of the best kept secrets in Germany. The Sachsenring, nicknamed the mini Nordschleife for good reason. Lots of undulation, lots of blind crests, although anti-clockwise direction, that does all sorts of weird things with the drivers' necks. But always great racing here, always dramatic. Circuit is well known for being a tyre eater. Tyres will be a story that will roll all the way through this weekend, but really excited to be here. And this FP1, first of two free practice sessions this weekend. Cars out on track for the first time today.
Yeah, Nicky Tim saying in the pre-event build-up in one of his statements that this is one of his favourite circuits on the calendar, not just on the calendar, but of any of the tracks that he's ever driven. And he says all the drivers feel the same. It's a proper track where you need commitment, you need bravery. And some of the corners here, I mean, you've got, especially the second half of the lap, or the middle sector of the lap, you've got 4 corners that you're approaching at over 200 kilometres an hour, and several corners that you're going through at over 200 kilometres an hour. And like most of the great racetracks in the world, Brian, it's made more interesting by the fact that you've got all this undulation.
Yes, it takes a lot of bravery, I'm told, to come up over the crest of a hill that is blind. Look at them going 3 abreast down a section of the track that is nicknamed the Waterfall for good reason. And that camera is great, by the way. I was just talking, just before we came on air, to Sam Shaheen. He has built the Bend Motorsport Park in Australia, the second largest permanent racetrack in the world. So he knows a few things about racetracks. He's here for the first time racing in Porsche 6 Carrera Cup Germany this weekend. He said this is one of the greatest tracks in the world. And that is high praise from somebody who runs the Bend Motorsport Park.
Yeah, agreed. Right, so what sort of lap times can we be expecting? Last year in free practice one, it was much hotter at this stage. It was 30 degrees air temperature and 35 degrees track temperature. At the moment, it's 16 degrees air temperature, kind of half as hot as we had last year. And the track temperature is the same. It's about 16 degrees, so much cooler conditions. That's better for the engines to breathe. So at the test last Sunday, almost all of the drivers went quicker in the morning session when it was cooler than they did in the afternoon session. Now, part of that was the fact there were quite a few offs. People were dragging dirt and gravel back onto the circuit, but certainly a lot of it was the fact that the temperature went up, the track temperature went up, and the air temperature particularly went up as well. So when it was cooler, it was quicker. When it got hotter, it wasn't quite as quick. So we might go quicker than we went last time. This time last year, where Kelvin van der Linde, runner-up in last year's championship, incidentally, just a couple of commentary boxes down from us, helping with the German TV commentary this weekend. And Kelvin last year set a 1 minute 18.559 in free practice one. Free practice two, Mirko Bortolotti, who went on to, of course, beat Kelvin to the championship title. He was half a second quicker with a 1:18.0, and it was much cooler. Weirdly, it was a lot cooler in the afternoon than it was in the morning. Let's hear from Mirko now.
Okay, buddy, now we go for a wake-up run.
A wake-up run, Brian.
We all need one of those. I've had about 3 coffees. Does that count? That section, I mentioned it just now, that section of the track is nicknamed the Waterfall for very good reasons. It's a long, old stretch out of turn 11, flat out. Then they're heavy braking into turn 12. But it is quite a fearsome slope on this track, and you don't realise how steep it is until you actually try and run or walk up or down it. It really is a highlight part of this circuit. As we look at Mirko Bortolotti, and rumours that Abt Motorsport have found something with that car.
Yeah, because talking to the team at the Nürburgring, they had identified that not only was it a struggle for both of their Lamborghinis, but Mirko's car in particular was lacking speed on the straights compared to his teammate, Nicky Tim, who has generally been getting the slightly better results in qualifying and in the races, and not necessarily related to the engine, but related maybe to the exit cornering speed to get up to that maximum speed on the straights. They feel like they've unlocked something, they found something on the car. And it certainly was a much more positive test for them last week, wasn't it? Because Mirko was ahead of his teammate, and they were both in the top 10, 7th quickest in the test for Mirko Bortolotti, within half a second of the fastest time, which was set by Jules Gounon in the Winwood Mercedes. And Nicky Tim was only a few thousandths of a second behind him. So maybe hoping for a bit more. Now, they started last weekend, the last weekend we had pretty well, didn't they, at the Nürburgring? They were both looking pretty good in free practice. Certainly for the first half of the session, then the weekend kind of faded away, and Mirko had a second retirement on the trot with that crash that he had with René Rast. But maybe they've unlocked something, and maybe they're going to find something here. As I say, he was pretty quick here last year. So Nicky Tim at the moment, Jordan Pepper and Mirko Bortolotti in the 3 Lamborghinis have set the early benchmark times.
Yeah, so Lamborghini looking very quick. It is a foolish man who discounts Mirko Bortolotti at any race at weekend. Of course, for the first race of the weekend tomorrow, he's got a 5-place grid drop that he's going to have to contend with, which is hanging over him from Nürburgring. He picked up penalty points after an unsafe release. We saw him doing a bit of side-by-side parallel driving in the pit lane, coming out from his pit stop, and picked up some penalty points as a result. So he's going to be a bit on the back foot for the first race. But certainly it's sounding like the noises coming out of Abt, and just what we're seeing is that maybe they've unlocked the issues with that car, and that maybe he's going to be challenging somewhere near the front as this weekend goes on.
That track seems very dirty, especially turn 5, a lot of marbles, also turn 8, 9, 10, a lot of dirt, gravel and pickup on the track.
Yeah, copy.
Yeah, I noticed that when we were looking at some of the camera shots. There's a lot of marbles everywhere, possibly from the previous Porsche 1-hour practice session that we had, which got a red flag at one point as well, with cars going off. So that's Thomas Preining, 2023 champion, who had a great run 2 events ago at the Norris Ring, a win and a second, shot from 9th up to 2nd in the championship, but really struggled with that Porsche at the Nürburgring. Could only get a 9th and a 10th place finish, and has dropped back down the championship table out of the top 4 now. And Thomas saying that really the main issue for the team at that home race at the Nürburgring was straight line speed. They just hadn't got the straight line speed. He also had to contend with 20 kilograms of success ballast that he was lugging around in race 1 as a consequence of winning the previous event at the Norris Ring. But he said, whatever I did on the straights, you know, I could try and fend people off by braking mega late, but it would only work so many times. Eventually they would come past me, and I just kind of had to wave them through and just accept that we weren't quick around there. So they actually, with the 3 BOP changes over the course of the weekend at the Nürburgring, didn't we? And they kept increasing the size of the air restrictor to allow more air into the fuel mix for the Porsches, but it didn't make too much difference, and he was struggling a bit. So from Thomas' point of view, hopefully it's going to be more competitive, the Porsche around here, saying that the Porsche's really good through the corners, not as good as some of the other cars on the straight, but over a lap time it looks very similar. But when you're in a battle with somebody and you're on the straight, you really need to be able to fend them off on these straights to keep position, and that he couldn't do.
Yeah, and with Thomas Preining, of course, he is so consistent, and we saw it in his championship winning year in 2023. The championships are won by maximising the bad days as well as the good, when your bad days are not that bad because you're just bringing it home consistently and picking up points. That keeps you in the championship hunt. It's the DNFs that really, really hurt the driver in a championship hunt. But it's not necessarily wins, and we've seen it over the last few years. There are drivers who have won more races than others who have not been in the championship hunt at the end of the season. Thomas Preining, certainly at the Nürburgring, he was just consistently got a 9th and a 10th place, so he picked up valuable points, kept himself well in the championship hunt. And that's what he does, isn't it? He's always just there. Even his bad days are good most of the time, which is why he's always a big danger man when it comes to championships.
Yeah, which is exactly kind of what Lucas Ara's been doing. If he hasn't had a chance for a podium, he's still been scoring good top 10 finishes this year, which is why he leads the championship with 3 weekends to go. So we've been watching Jordan Pepper. We're now looking at a fast lap from Mirko Bortolotti. He goes to the top of the times, 1 minute 18.640. It's only just over a 10th of a second away from the fastest time that we had in free practice 1 this time last year from Kelvin van der Linde. Nicky Tim, his teammate, at Abdi's second quickest, and this is looking promising. A 1:18.8 for Nicky, just under 0.2 of a second behind. Jordan Pepper has bound for the pits, but the South African, who got the points in his DTM debut here last year with a 10th place finish, he's third quickest, also with a 1:18.8. Maro Engel is carrying one of our onboard cameras. That's a great view, vantage point just behind the front right wheel there of Maro's car. And Maro hoping for a good weekend here because he's got a big birthday coming up on Wednesday. 40th, it's his 40th birthday on Wednesday. So if he can celebrate that by picking up a win or a podium, getting himself right back into that championship fight, then that would be good news for him. And he'd be buoyed by the fact that Mercedes have had 2 wins here in the last 2 seasons.
Mercedes seem to always look pretty strong around here, as we say. What a great camera shot that is. Now look at all that rubber flying up in the air. That's all the marbles. We said this track is tough on the tyres, and that is borne out by the fact there's loads of balls of rubber, nicknamed marbles, off the racing line. That rubber that peels off the slick tyres as the cars go around at these corners, and they all gather at the side of the track. And you can see already, well, we're only Friday morning, and there's already a lot of marbles, a lot of rolled up rubber at the side of the circuit. And we haven't had that much running today. We've had a couple of free practice sessions for Porsche and GT4. So again, the headline that tyres will be an issue this weekend continues to be a factor. There's the penalty box, and there is some dust rising into the air. That'll be Jules Gounon, who's maybe just exploring how hard he can push it around turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, so the 2 Winward teammates, both looking for a good weekend here. I remember 2 years ago, Maro had an awful weekend here at the Sachsenring. He got battered off twice in the opening laps of the races. But last year, he did get onto the podium, had a 3rd place here last year and a 5th place. It was a good, solid weekend for Maro here last year. Incredibly, though, he's looking for his first win since Zandvoort 2023. That was with Landgraf, who now run the car of Lucas Auer and Tom Callender, and are leading the championship, the Drivers' Championship, with Lucas. So Maro looking for that first win, but of course he is consistently picking up podium finishes over the last couple of seasons, which is why he was a big threat for the championship title last year. In terms of how he's going at the moment, pretty well. 7th place. Jules Gounon is quicker than him. 1:18.9 for Jules, who is 5th quickest. Maro 1:19.0, only fraction behind him. It's very compressed there in terms of the times. You've got a 1:18.8 puts you 2nd, Nicky Tim. And a 1:19.0, 0.2 of a second difference, puts you 7th, which is where Maro Engel currently is. And in between the Lamborghinis and the Mercedes, you've got Gounon, Auer and Engel 5th, 6th and 7th. You've got Lamborghinis 1st, 2nd and 3rd. There's a McLaren, Brian. Timo Glock having a good Friday, just like he had at the Nürburgring.
Yes, well, kind of the car swap seems to have worked well for everybody. And certainly Timo Glock had a better time than he has previously at the Nürburgring. Of course, at the Nürburgring free practice, he was quickest in one of the free practice sessions. So certainly he's found a setup, and he's starting to find a bit of pace in that McLaren. Another driver that you discount at your peril. So Timo Glock up in 4th place at the moment, and must be feeling, well, he just has a lot more confidence now that they've kind of shuffled things around in that team. Both he and Ben Dura have been looking so good, particularly as this season now has started to progress.
Yeah, I think Timo has a lot of talk about his results, and why haven't his results been where they should be? Why hasn't he been as quick as his less experienced teammate? But I think it's been overlooked largely, the contribution that he's made overall to the team, because Dura Motorsport are a different league than they were last year. I mean, they got pole position with Ben. Fantastic effort on the Sunday qualifying session at Nürburgring 2 weeks ago. He got 2 more 8th place finishes. Okay, he couldn't convert the pole into a podium, but he got 2 really good top 8 finishes. He's had 3 8th place finishes now this season. Timo got a 10th. He's had a couple of point scoring finishes. So they're scoring way more points as a team than they were last year. And I'm sure a lot of that is the experience that Timo Glock has brought with him in terms of helping the team be more organised, be perhaps more professional, trying to improve the pit stops, but also some of the experienced people like Richard Selwyn that he's brought along with him, that he's brought to the team. And so, yeah, maybe Timo hasn't had the best season so far on his return. He would happily admit that. but he's looking at the long game. He's looking at trying to develop that team, and it is a long-term plan. The plan is that he's going to be in it for 3 seasons.
Yeah, and he's said as much, hasn't he, that he's not just looking at his personal performances on the track, he's looking at the team effort. And I've heard other people in the team say that as well, that he has brought that experience into DTM Motorsport. And they do, they look like they haven't stepped up a level this year, they've stepped up several levels this year. They look in the game, whereas maybe last year, without wishing to be hideously rude, they were perhaps making up the numbers a little bit, but this year certainly not the case. I mean, that's borne out by the fact that Ben Durr stuck the car on pole position at the Nürburgring, and with a field this tight and this close. So yes, Timo Glock bringing a lot of experience, of course, a former Formula 1 pilot, has been in DTM for many, many years prior to the GT3 era, has an awful lot of wisdom to bring. It's just so much more than sitting in the seat and driving it. It's providing the feedback, not just from the car, but in operational areas as well. And yeah, I've heard it from several sources that he brings an awful lot of stuff in an advisory role.
On board with Max Powell, carrying one of our onboard cameras. One of the great stories of the season so far was that maiden podium for Powell Motorsport at Zandvoort. A brave decision to go on to dry tyres on a wet track to start with. Great driving from Max, and of course he's a race winner himself in the DTM, but and a guest weekend at the Nürburgring a couple of years ago with the Grasser Racing team. But for the team, their first podium. One of the smaller teams, if not the smallest team on the grid, Powell Motorsport, and Max a bit more freed up to be a bit less involved with making the decisions and running the team. He's been saying this last couple of years than he was in the first year with the team, when he was doing everything basically, because he's very much involved in managing the team as well, but put more experienced people in, has been able to concentrate on his driving a little bit more. We're on board with Thomas Preining. Now, Thomas was on pole position for one of the races here last year, didn't convert it into a win or a podium, had a 7th place finish in the end, but he is certainly a driver that if he can have a good weekend here, we know that he's really quick, and the Porsche is solid around his home circuit at the Red Bull Ring, which is next to come. And we also know that Thomas and Manthey and that Porsche are super competitive at Hockenheim, because 2 years ago, when he wrapped up the championship title, he had the full house, 2 pole positions and 2 race wins there. So if you can get a good weekend here, get a win, maybe get a podium, pick good points up, be somewhere in the mix with 2 weekends to go, you absolutely can't rule him out of the championship fight either.
No, and you look, he's 5th in the championship, just 22 points back. When you're talking about Mauro Engel, he's 6th, just 23 points back. In fact, all 24 drivers are still in the championship. There's nobody who mathematically can't win it. Now, clearly, it's a little bit unrealistic for maybe those outside of the top 20 to win the championship, but you only need a couple of the front runners to have a poor weekend, and then drivers that are maybe in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th are suddenly right up there in the hunt as well. And when you see that Thomas Preining, just 22 points back, well, if Lucas Auer has a non-finish this weekend, or if Jack Aitken has a non-finish this weekend, suddenly he's right back up there again.
And Thomas was 3rd quickest in the test session here on Sunday. In fact, his Manthey teammate, Ian Guan, went quickly as well. They were 3rd and 4th quickest. So Guan was quickest with a 1:17.8, did 100 laps around here last Sunday. Jordan Pepper was 2nd in the Grasser Lamborghini, just a 10th and a half behind him. And then Thomas Preining and Ian Guan 3rd and 4th. Jack Aitken, who was a winner here last year, 5th. Mauro Engel was 6th. Mirko Bortolotti 7th. Nicky Tim 8th. Timo Glock, who we've been talking about, was 9th and quicker in both sessions than his teammate Ben Durr. And 10th place was Thierry Vermeulen, who was on pole position here last year and really should have won the race. But the team got penalised for a pit stop. He had to go through the penalty box, dropped to 3rd and could never get back up and fight for the win. But in terms of driving, he was driving easily well enough to win the race, Thierry Vermeulen. He's had a couple of poles, one last year, one this year, which haven't turned into race victories. Could this be the weekend for Thierry Vermeulen? Because Ferraris, we talked about Lamborghinis looking good around here. Porsches have had good results. Mercedes have had good results. But Thierry had a pole last year. Jack Aitken had a win here last year.
Yeah, you certainly get the feeling that Thierry is due one any day soon, don't you? I was just looking at Jack Aitken because he was the only driver to have not put in a competitive time, but just as I was about to say it, he pops up into 15th place. That's his first push lap of the session, a 1:19.498, almost matching Thierry Vermeulen almost to a thousandth of a second. Ben Green is up ahead of both of them, though. He's in 11th place.
Look at this, fantastic shots from Thomas Preining. He's about to fire himself past the Manthey Junior teammate. He gets on the brakes and gets out of the way, Maurice Schuring. Preining's not on his absolute best lap here, but it still looks committed, doesn't it? There's that drop down coming out of turn 12 into that final turn, turn 13, second gear, 120 kilometres an hour. Get the exit right, up over this crest, this really steep climb, and then it sort of roller coasters down and up, and then you're downhill now into the braking zone for turn 1. You approach that at about 225 kilometres an hour. You only slow down to fourth gear and 200 kilometres an hour as you go through there, and then down to 75 kilometres an hour in second gear as you go through there, and then downhill all the way to turn 3, the Castrol Amiga turn, where again you go through that third gear and start to climb uphill again. It's a roller coaster ride around here. Bortolotti and Tim and Pepper still the fastest 3, but Jack Aitken now up to 4th place with his best lap of the session. The Ferrari does a 1:18.929, so just about 3/10 of a second at the moment, covering the top 6 in the session.
Yes, Jack had a very quiet start to the session, but now he's really turned the wick up, hasn't he, to popping up from last place to 4th in the space of a couple of laps. So we're following him now in that Emil Frey Racing Ferrari, so just keeping it all together. Of course, this circuit has some very deep gravel traps. You don't often have issues with track limits for much of the circuit because the track limits are very self-defining here. You get it wrong, you can see how big and deep that gravel trap is. Once you're in there, you're not coming out again. The only exception to that is turn 11. That's on the entrance to the waterfall, where you do see drivers going wide. And in the previous free practice session for Porsche 6 Carrera Cup Germany, there were numerous track limit infringements on that turn 11. But everywhere else, I think it's pretty well self-defining. On board with Jack Aitken, listen to the rumble as he goes up over the rumble strips of turn 13, and just exploring the outer limits of turn 13, because a good exit from there gives you a really good run along the pit straight and gives you a good advantage into turn 1, which is where Jack Aitken is now. Then into turn 2, and then this great corner with the big tree right in the middle, clump of trees. That's the Castrol Omega turn. And then as they come out of the Castrol Omega turn, this is where they come up the hill. It's one of the blind crests, and just running up there, all you can see is the sky, and they come up over there, over the top of that hill, and then it's back down again the other side towards turn 7. And quite often we see drivers getting it wrong on turn 7. That's where the gravel trap seems to reach out and grab the car. They head under the bridge, and then it's back up another blind crest up towards turns 8 and 9, which is where Jack is now. And then for me, one of my highlights, to come over this crest that's fairly wide there. This is one of my favorite parts of any circuit in the world. This is the waterfall. Hold on to your stomachs. Breakfast is still down there somewhere, and down they come, full tilt, then heavy on the brakes in towards turn 12, and then it's back up another blind crest. And this is a really tricky corner, isn't it? Because not only is it a blind crest, but it's also a sharp left-hander as well, and this is where you want to get that good exit once again.
Yeah, you're already going uphill on the approach to that corner. Jack bails for the lap. You see him as he came out of the waterfall after that wide run through turn 10 just before the waterfall section. He picked up some rubber on his tyres and some marbles, so he's kind of weaving down the straight to try and get rid of them. Then he went wide again at turn 12, so he boards the lap. This was Jack's best point-scoring weekend, not only of last year, but of any year. It's his 3rd season of the championship. He got a win and a 6th here last year, whereas in previous events he'd struggled to get 2 good days. He'd had a good day and a bad day quite often, but a win and a 6th and a pole position here last year. And if he can replicate that this weekend, that might well put him back into the championship lead. He's 8 points behind. We've still got 56 points for each of the 3 race weekends to come. Remember, you get 3 points for qualifying on pole, 2 for 2nd and 1 for 3rd, so those points are going to add up as well. 25 points for each race victory to come as well. There you can see the circuit, which is kind of situated in a business park, an industrial estate. It's a really odd location for a racetrack, sort of location where you might find a kart track actually, rather than a racetrack. So that's where you just drive through the industrial estate to come into the area. So just at the back of our commentary box, you walk out of essentially the paddock zone, and you're into a roadway where there's business units on the other side. But the area around this is quite green and quite hilly, quite a nice part of Germany.
There is in fact a kart track just down the road, because that's where I got my back end thoroughly kicked by Max Powell in a race a couple of years ago, and decided this is why I should never race a car. But it's a great one. It's run, I think the Fugels are quite heavily involved in the running of that, the Fugel brothers. But yeah, that's just down the road from here. But it's a great setting, isn't it? As we look at Jordan Pepper, he's not checking his emails. He's not. I don't think he's posting on Instagram. I think he's looking at data there. They're just scrutinising every last detail, because every last thousandth is going to count here around Sachsenring.
Or he's booking his next game of paddle, because that's what he was doing this morning with one of our esteemed commentators, part of the team, Patrick Simon, who does the circuit commentary for DTM. Luca Engsler, Jordan Pepper and Kelvin van der Linde all went to play paddle this morning, which was a great experience, no doubt, for Patrick. He says he won, but I'm not sure he did. And well, we've got a bit of a lull on track, quite a few cars into the pit lane at the moment. Probably we should talk about the big announcement that came yesterday, Brian,
yes,
which was pretty early. We've got the dates for next year, the 2026 calendar announced, and same 8 circuits, but in a very different order. We start in the championship next year in Austria.
Yes, Red Bull Ring for the season opener. And I have to say, what a great place to launch the season on that legendary circuit in the Styrian Mountains. My only concern is the weather. I was at a Ferrari gig a few years ago in May, and it got snowed off. And we did actually have a DTM test a couple of years ago that had snow on the ground, so I might pack my ski gear just in case as well for that one. But what a great place to kick off the season in Austria, in the mountains, a glamorous circuit, and a great place for the season launch. It doesn't mean we lose Oschersleben, because Oschersleben appears in the calendar, but in July.
Yeah, so, I mean, and there's a real chance that we could have an Austrian champion. So it could be very, because you've got Lucas Auer leading the championship, you've got Thomas Pridey up there in the championship fight. So it could be a real draw for the crowd to start the 2026 season with potentially a #1 on the car of an Austrian driver.
The car is better than the test.
Brenny Rast heading out, as I say, not too positive about the chances that he and Marko Witt and his teammate have around here. But yeah, we start on the 25th and 26th of April, the 24th, 25th and 26th of April at the Red Bull Ring. And then a month later, the second event will also be a non-German event. Zandvoort moves earlier in the calendar. That's the 22nd to the 24th of May. And then the Lausitzring will be the first German event a month later, from the 19th to the 21st of June. The Norris Ring at its traditional early July slot, the 3rd, 4th and 5th. Then the second half of the season kicks off at Oschersleben for weekend 5, 24th to the 26th of July, the Nürburgring in August, the Sachsenring in September, and Hockenheim in October, the final 3 events. And it's a much more evenly spaced out calendar as well. There are no big gaps between races, no real summer break, so it's nicely evenly matched. And the great thing is that there's no clashes with other GT championships like the GT World Challenge or the World Endurance Championship. There's no clashes with the big 24-hour races. And I think possibly part of the idea of moving Zandvoort earlier is that it's not going to clash with the Le Mans test, which is then meant that with a couple of drivers taking part in the Le Mans test, we've had this late race on a Sunday to allow them a chance to fly between the 2 events. In the last 2 years, that's happened at Zandvoort. This year it won't, because it's moved to May. So yeah, it's a good-looking calendar, and yeah, it might not be as hot as normal when we go to the Red Bull Ring if we go and get the end of April, but if there are snow-capped mountains in the distance, it's going to look pretty spectacular, isn't it? Yes, and
as I say, maybe we can combine that with a ski break somewhere. I mean, that would be nice, wouldn't it? But looking at the calendar, it just looks well balanced. It's as you say, well spaced out, and the real critical bit is that it doesn't clash with anything else that's major. So drivers that are maybe in more than one championship, they won't have that problem, that dilemma of which one to choose. So hopefully everybody wins, I think, with the calendar spaced out as it is.
Just to sort of prove René Rast's point about BMWs maybe not being ideally suited to this track, given that it's René Rast, third in the all-time rankings for the most wins in DTM history, top of the rankings for the most poles in DTM history, third ever in terms of the most podiums in the DTM. But even he has not been on the podium here. Now, we've only been here twice in the GT3 era and twice in his era of driving. But over the last 4 races here, the 7th is the best that he's managed. 7th place finish in one of the races here last year. Marco Wittmann has only managed a 12th place finish. Admittedly, he was fighting for a much higher position than that in race 2 when, ironically, it was his fellow BMW René Rast that triggered an incident which saw Marco and Jordan Pepper both out of the race. It was one of the big talking points of last year at the Sachsenring, wasn't it, Brian?
It was, and yes, check the videos out, hand signals and all, but yes, it was a high drama. I had to double check this, that can you believe the best finish that a BMW in the GT3 era has ever had here was Sheldon van der Linde in 2023, which was a 6th place. And that's the best finish a GT3 BMW has had in DTM.
Yeah.
So it does show, and Schubert Motorsport have labelled this a fear track. Well, I can't believe that Schubert Motorsport are fearful of anything, but it's certainly the track where the section 1 appears to be the bit that catches them out, the long winding corners where the BMW is least best suited. And they're going to be working on that. They have put a lot of messages out. Look, we need the BOP to be a little bit more in our favour here. I would just point out, remember Nürburgring last time out where they were very, very strong. So it all shakes out in the end, but this has never been a track that is favoured the BMWs. And I'm guessing that probably means the Mustangs may well struggle here as well. I don't know, because there's similar characteristics, isn't it?
Yeah, they have bags of straight line speed, the BMWs. Their issue is getting tyres up to temperature. Their issue is getting grip when there's not much grip on the circuit. So as the weekend went on at the Nürburgring, the track gripped up, and René Rast was saying we got much better as the weekend went on. We found more and more grip, and the car was a totally different car on Sunday than it was on Saturday. We didn't really change anything with the setup. It's just how the tyres work. And he's actually scored way more points on Sundays than he has on Saturdays. They sort of start the weekend slowly and gradually get into it has been the pattern. And René has said, oh, this is our issue, really. We're not scoring enough points on a Saturday. He was also benefited, wasn't he, at the Nürburgring by the fact, in a bizarre way, that he crashed out in the first race. So he had that crash on lap 1 with Mirko Bortolotti, which put Mirko out of the race, which caused the team to have to go and do a 1,000-kilometre round trip to go and get a spare engine for Mirko, work through the night, get him out there. But there was damage to René Rast's car in that incident as well. The race was red flags, and Schubert said, look, we've got damage to both of the front wheel rims, the left side and the right side. So the DTM organisers allowed them to change the whole of the front wheels, which meant they changed tyres. So the tyres that he had on for the race basically had only done 1 lap, and he was able to put them back on. He used the tyres that he'd used in free practice 2 for the rest of race 1. For Sunday, he basically got almost a brand new set of tyres, which through circumstance then proved to be useful, because he charged from 6th pretty quickly up into the lead of the race, and he won it fairly comfortably. His teammate was quick, but not as quick in the first stint, Marco Wittmann, but he also got stuck in traffic a bit as well. So Sunday was way, way better for René Rast, even though they had a bit of a sticky pit stop, didn't he, on Sunday?
Yes, but such was the advantage that didn't actually really harm him very much at all. And it's a great example of, you have a bad day on a Saturday, you turn it to your advantage on a Sunday. I was quite interested reading about comments from Gottfried Grasser in the week, who he believes some teams are holding back on the Saturday so as not to be disadvantaged with the BOP on a Sunday. I'm not sure how that works, because you'd think that if you're holding back on a Saturday, then clearly you're not going to score as many points. But certainly that's something that Gottfried Grasser has suggested. He has also suggested that they should award more points on a Saturday or maybe for Saturday qualifying than they do on a Sunday to stop people from holding back on the Saturday. I'm not entirely sure whether that is the case or not. As you already mentioned, the Mustangs and the BMWs tend to develop more grip as the track rubbers in over the weekend anyway. But it is interesting. This is the constant talk about whether drivers are sandbagging. We see BOP changes throughout the weekend. But I don't see the advantage of sandbagging on a Saturday, because if you're sandbagging on a Saturday, you are going to score less points. So I'm not entirely sure how that shakes out.
Yeah, Gottfried Grasser, the team principal, team boss at Grasser, ran the Lamborghinis of Jordan Pepper. Of course, he's third in the championship fight, just ahead of René Rast and of Luke Renkster. He's a straight talker. He's always honest with his opinions, isn't he? But that was his opinion. He mentioned BMW by name. And in terms of the stats, René Rast has scored 90 points on Saturdays and only 27 points this year on Sundays. But as I said, René and Schubert say, well, that's a problem. It's not an advantage for us. We need to do better on Saturdays, because we're always on the back foot. We're always relying on a good Sunday to get up there. And qualifying is still, they've had a couple of better qualifying sessions in the middle of this season, but qualifying has still been a problem for them. They're always having to fight their way through, aren't they, in the race? Yeah,
and I would wager that the teams and the drivers that are doing better on the Sunday than the Saturday, we may need to look a little closer at the pit stops, because of course on a Sunday we have 2 pit stops as opposed to a Saturday where you only have 1, and we've already seen it where the teams that are able to make up 2 or 3 seconds in a pit stop, and you get to do that twice on a Sunday race, maybe we should be looking there as where teams are gaining advantage, because the quick pit stops are really benefiting those drivers on a Sunday. When you have a race with 2 pit stops in, then if the team have got it all together, then those drivers are going to benefit from it, aren't they?
Yeah, it really is. I think it's a really good addition to this year's championship. And that second pit stop on a Sunday, because it, you know, as you say, it brings the team into it more. They can have more influence on it, can't they, in terms of when they pit, the strategy, but also how good those pit stops are. If you can save, and this happens regularly, the quick teams at pit stops can be 2, maybe 3 seconds a lap, 3 seconds quicker during their pit stops than other teams. Well, that's 6 seconds.
Yeah.
And all right, if you are 0.2 of a second per lap quicker than another driver, it takes you 5 laps just to get 1 of those seconds back. Well, so it's an enormous advantage, isn't it?
I've said it before, I would say it again. I would argue that the team won the race for Thomas Preining at the Norrisring in race 2. I think that was Jack Aitken's race to win, and I think that mega turnaround in the pit stop, and I know Emil Fry, they practice into the night. They are the team that when you walk the pit lane at 8 o'clock in the evening, they are just going over and over again doing pit stop practice, and they drop the car off the jacks and they go, no, not good enough, do it again, right? No, not good enough, do it again. 1 more time. No, do it another 2 times. And so that's how hard they're pressing on and practicing. But Manthey really are slick. And that's what got Thomas Preining in front at the Norrisring, and arguably won him the race.
Yeah, and teams like Landgraf practicing back at the factory on a weekly basis as well, several times a week, several times a day, in fact, in some cases. Schubert, on average, with their 2 cars, have had the quickest pit stops this year. And Winwood, they've both averaged 7.3 seconds. That's an average, which is really, really strong. And often Winwood have been sub 6.5 seconds. Manthey, just behind them, 7.6 seconds. Landgraf, good job with Lucas Auer and Tom Callender, 7.7 seconds. And Grasser are 5th with 8.1 seconds. I'll bring your attention to 7th place. Come to You Racing. First season of performance pit stops, first season in the DTM, and they're 7th on the list, 8.3 seconds, only a fraction behind Grasser and Abt, who way more experience. They've done a really good job, haven't they?
Oh, it's great, isn't it? They came into the season with, I would say, relatively low expectations. They've seen this year very much as a learning year at Come To You Racing. Certainly, when I first came across them, they were a TCR team. Performance pit stops probably a long, long way on the horizon, but they've come into the DTM this year. They've picked up a few penalties just for procedural issues, and I think that's just kind of part of learning DTM. They said, right, Oschersleben, that's going to be a bit of a bogey track for us. We'll get that out of the way early, which was good. But they've just progressively got better and better, and the pace in which they've got up to speed as a team, and to do performance pit stops that are kind of mid-pack in terms of times is a heck of a result.
Yeah.
And both drivers are looking pretty useful as well. And certainly Gilles Magnus, last time out at the Nürburgring, he was very rapid and he got that 7th place in the second race. So they are a team on the ascendancy. I should think a few of the other teams are possibly looking over their shoulders.
Yeah, Francois Verbeest and the team done an excellent job. And yeah, Gilles 4th in qualifying on the Sunday at Nürburgring as well. We're watching Maro Engel. He's had a couple of good laps. He's up to 3rd quickest now. He's either side of him got McLarens. So Ben Durr is at it again, 2nd quickest in the pits now, but a 1:18.739. Maro has just matched that time exactly, 1:18.739, but Ben said it first. So Ben is class 2nd, Maro is class 3rd, and Timo Glock has just improved in the newer 2025 edition of the McLaren, and he's 4th quickest with a 1:18.811, so within a 1/10 of a second of his teammate. Nicky Tim down to 5th, Jordan Pepper down to 6th, Jack Aitken down to 7th, and then Goon on 8th, Auer 9th, and Enxler currently in 10th place. So McLaren's at it again, doing a great job. And a word for Ben Durr, I'm sure we'll talk about him plenty over the course of the weekend, but the outstanding statistic for Ben Durr is that last year, all year, he scored 4 points. This year, with 3 weekends to go, he's already scored 43 points. A massive upturn.
I mean, he almost beat his score of last year with that pole position at Nürburgring, didn't he?
Yeah.
He got 3 for that.
Yeah.
I would just say that if that McLaren, the new McLaren, arrives at Motorsport before the end of the season, can I suggest we just put it somewhere safe and keep it for next year? Change nothing, because it's working really well at the moment.
Yeah, Ben has swapped the Nürburgring to the car from last year, and his teammate Timo Glock has taken over the car that Ben started the season in, which is this year's model. The swap seems to suit both drivers. They're both performing well. But Maro Engel has found a bit more time. He's now got ahead of Ben Durr with a 1:18.644. So he found another 1/10 of a second.
Look at this.
0.04 of a second between him and Mirko Bortolotti. Fabio Scherer has just done the absolute best first sector time. He's backed off in the middle sector, but Fabio Scherer in the Ford Mustang, 13th quickest overall. The lap's going to not be mega because he slowed right down in the middle sector, but the absolute best first sector, as Brian just spotted on the screen. We continue to watch Maro Engel out there as Fabio Scherer taking on back. Goes to the top.
He's backing off in the
times.
How is that even possible? His middle sector.
That doesn't look right, does it?
No, it doesn't. No. There's a glitch.
Timing error.
Yes.
Yeah, because he was like 4 seconds off the pace in the middle sector. So
yes.
Must have been an almighty glitch on the transponder, I think. So Timo Glock, though, has gone to the top of the times. 1:18.633. Wow. There he is. He's just crossed the line a few seconds ago, goes past Fabio Scherer, so he is now top of the times, 1:18.633, 0.07 of a second quicker than Mirko Bortolotti, who in turn is only 11,000ths of a second quicker than Maro Engel. 4,000ths quicker than Maro Engel, so 11,000ths between the top 3. Ben Durr 4th, still in the pits, Goon on 5th, Tim in 6th place.
Yeah, I don't know what Fabio Scherer had for breakfast this morning, but he is up in 13th place. He's been looking rapid all the way through this session. His teammate Arjamaini is down in 23rd at the moment. The Beamers, as expected, 18th and 20th, so struggling a little bit for pace. But yeah, Fabio Scherer right up there on the pace.
Yeah, looking good, and looking really good for Timo Glock. If they can translate Friday pace into Saturday pace, which couldn't quite do for Timo last time out at the Nürburgring, but they'll be looking sharp. So I say, good positive test for both of the McLarens here, particularly for Timo on Sunday, quicker than his teammate both times. Teammate's just coming back out of the pits as well, Ben Durr, to see if he can get up the order a bit in the remaining 12 minutes of the session. But there is Timo's best championship finish in the DTM came back in the end of the Class 1 era, 5th, because he was a regular BMW factory driver, a 5-time race winner in the DTM, and 3 times on the podium in his Formula 1 career when he drove for the likes of Jordan, Toyota, which is where he had most of his success in Formula 1, and still a hugely popular figure with the fans, Timo Glock. So great to see him bouncing back as we get some team radio from Ricardo Feller.
Power steering. Is giving me less support now.
Okay, copy. Let's see how it is.
At the moment it's okay to drive, but we have to check.
Power steering issue for Ricardo Feller.
Don't want that round here, do you?
Not really,
it's
no.
quite hard work round here. I don't want to speak too soon, but I say welcome back to the sharp end of the grid for Mirko Bortolotti. He's just 7,000ths of a second off the time set by Timo Glock, and it certainly feels like they've unlocked some pace in that car. He drove his first ever GT3 race here in 2012 in GT Masters and finished in 3rd place. So clearly he likes it around here. But yeah, welcome back, Mirko Bortolotti. They've definitely found something there. Ricardo Feller in the fairly aging Audi, pretty reasonable, 14th place. That's a great shot. That's looking down at Castrol Omega, isn't it? What a wonderful shot.
Very tall, that camera operator, isn't he?
I want that as my desktop wallpaper. That is awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned tyre wear around here because there's so many high-speed corners around it. It's a slightly abrasive circuit, surface to the circuit as well. So some tracks on the calendar, you get for the 2 race days 3 sets of new Pirelli slick tyres, and some tracks you get 4, and this is one of the circuits where you get an extra set. You get 4 sets of slick tyres. So practice, you get 2 sets of carryover tyres, as in tyres you've used at a previous event or events, and 1 set of new slicks that you can run at some point during the free practice sessions. But you have to give that new set back at the end, and then for Saturday and Sunday, for this weekend, you'll get 2 sets of new Pirelli tyres. And if you qualify in the top 10, you have to use your qualifying tyres to start the race on, as in your new tyres. If you're not in the top 10, you get a bit more choice on strategy. Thierry Vermeulen up to 4th place in the Ferrari, 118.737.
I think tyres are going to very much decide the winners and losers here this weekend because it is such an abrasive surface. Interesting, the ADAC GT4 Germany that's on the schedule this weekend as well, they've actually shortened both of their races from 60 minutes down to 50 minutes. They've taken 10 minutes off their race duration because of concerns over tyre wear. Of course, they don't have tyre changes during their races. But that just shows you what the ADAC are thinking and how abrasive the surface is. As Jordan Pepper, purple in Sector 1 and Sector 2. That's him that's just come tearing past your camera. That was his teammate, Luca Engsler, who's also just come past. So this is heading up now towards the final turn, coming up out of turn 13. This is surely going to be the quickest time of the day. Who's in 8th coming into this lap, a 118.823, but it's a 117.967, the first into the 17s, and he's only about 2/10 off the fastest time last year, isn't he?
That's mega. That's a really good lap time. 967. 2/3 of a second quicker than the next fastest driver, which was Timo Glock. So last year, 118.5, Kelvin van der Linde in free practice 1. So he's absolutely obliterated that by about 0.6 of a second. He is almost a 10th quicker than the fastest time he had in free practice 2. And he's only 0.8 of a second away from pole position on Saturday last year, which was Thomas Preining with a 117.199. As Fabio Scherer, the second quickest in the Mustang, was keeping an eye as we were watching Jordan Pepper. He'd set a good first sector time, which was 10th and a half behind Jordan Pepper. He's gone second in the Mustang with a 118.579.
Wow.
So Timo Glock, who went into the pits about 2 minutes ago, down to 3rd place now. Mirko Bortolotti down to 4th. Maro Engel 5th, still on track. Thierry Vermeulen's gone into the pits, he's 6th. Ben-Dur is 7th, he's back on track. Jules on 8th, Nicky Tim 9th, and Nguyen has just improved to go 10th. And that's Marco Wittmann getting it wrong, getting wide, and that's at turn 7 at the end of sector 1. So through the left-hander, he's taken it a bit too wide or had an issue and got way, way deep into the gravel trap. Let's see what happened. Just understeered off, didn't he? And as soon as he just clips the gravel with the right side tyres, he loses control and he understeers more, clips onto the grass and goes wide and all the way into the gravel trap. Rally crossing there from the 2-time champion.
I showed you how easy it is to get it wrong because he literally only clipped the edge of the gravel. Then that put him onto the grass where there is 0 traction, and then he is a passenger just trying to get it out of the gravel trap. So he keeps out of the way of everybody else. Hopefully he's not dragged too much gravel onto the track, but it'll take him the rest of the lap just to clean those tyres up. He may well peel off into the pits after that. So a wild moment, no damage there. That's up in the final turn. I think maybe is he just about to peel off into the pits, or is he going to carry on? We'll find out in a moment. No, he carries on, I think. So, try and clean those tyres up and give it another go.
Right, it's Marco Wittmann. I mean, Zandvoort last year, the car was falling apart and he carried on, didn't he? And got the race win. So a bit of gravel's not going to worry him. So he carries on and sticks out there. But yeah, just shows that maybe that BMW around here has feared a bit of a handful. They weren't particularly quick, the BMWs. Marco was 13th. I think Rennie was 16th. Yeah, 13th and 16th on Sunday in the test. So they'll be a bit fearful about this, particularly as both of them, you know, still very much in the championship fight.
I can't get over 0.6 of a second between first and second. This is in a series where we've had just over a second covering the whole grid in qualifying. And this is shades of Norrisring, actually, because at the Norrisring in the first race, Jordan Pepper was significantly quicker than everybody in one of the free practice sessions and in quali. Doing both free practice sessions had Max Powell not put in a blinder on the absolute end of free practice 1. But certainly Jordan Pepper, where has that come from? 0.6, 0.612. That is a massive gap ahead of Fabio Scherer, Timo Glock. I wouldn't have had those three on my bingo card coming in this morning, if I'm honest. That's quite an unusual 1, 2, 3, I'd say.
Yeah, only Friday. You don't know what everybody's doing, of course, but interesting. Maro Engel and Ricardo Fenner both come back out of the pits. Marco Wittmann stays on track, makes his way through turn 1, down to 75 kilometres an hour, second gear. Weaves his way down through the left-hander at turn 2, down to the Castrol Amiga turn at turn 3, the right-hander, where again you drop down to second gear and only 85 kilometres an hour. Jack Aitken and Ben Green got the first ever Ferrari 1-2 finish in the history of the DTM on Saturday at the Nürburgring last time out. Got Emil Frey Racing's first ever 1-2 finish and became the first British driver since 2018 to take a 1-2 finish in a DTM race. Just cutting the corner a bit there with the right rear Pirelli tyre was Jack Aitken. Worth mentioning that the Pirelli tyres are made from rubber which is farmed on sustainably suitable forestry these days, DSG approved forestry, and we use a fully synthetic fuel, or part of the progress in trying to make the DTM more sustainable in terms of the running of the cars and the championship, but still very competitive tyre from Pirelli, but being pushed hard. Pushing hard now is Thomas Preining, 2 personal bests. Now, he had done the least laps of anybody up until this point. He's been relatively quiet. He's only done 18 laps. Most of them have done 25 to 30 laps. But when he goes out there, he makes it count, doesn't he? He goes second quickest, the 2023 champion. So the Austrian puts the Porsche second with a 1:18.454. That's just under half a second slower than Jordan Pepper, who is in the pits. Fabio Scherer in the Mustang third in the pits. Then the McLaren of Glock, the Lamborghini of Bortolotti, the Mercedes of Engel, which has just gone back out, the Ferrari of Vermeulen 7th, the McLaren of 8th, Juganon in the Mercedes, quickest in the test here last week. Currently ninth, just gone back into the pits, and Nicky Tim in the other Abt Lamborghini currently runs in 10th place.
Great shots. I tell you what, I love this place. Honestly, such a highlight. There's Thomas Preining extracting everything out of it, but always throws up surprises here at the Sachsenring, and it really tests the drivers, and you can see why we love coming here so much, can't you? So Thomas Preining up into that second place. He's not backed out of it, has he?
He's left a big load of Pirelli rubber on the surface of the circuit. They absolutely drifted it on the way through that left-hander at turn 10. So, as you'd expect from Tommy, absolute commitment from the former DTM champion, former Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland champion, and he is pushing on. It's not going to be his absolute best lap this, but it's still looking fairly committed, isn't it, as he rumbles over the curbs, goes over the line at 1:18.596, which in itself that would have been quick enough for 4th place in the session, so it's still a pretty good lap, even though it wasn't quite as rapid as his previous one.
No, still pushing on all the way to the end. Of course, only 1 minute and 3/4 left of this. This has flown past today, actually. We get to do it again later on, a slightly shorter session, but that'll be where the drivers will start to work more on the qualifying setup. So maybe we're seeing some of the long-run pace here at the moment. So Thomas Breining in that second place. It looks like he's backed out of it, or maybe he hasn't. Does he back out of it?
No, never.
No. So, but Jordan Pepper is still the only one into the 17s at the moment. We had a test here last Sunday. Quite unusual having a test on a Sunday. And the times there, 1:17.872. Jules Gounon was consistently very, very quick over every lap last Sunday. Came top of the sheets then, 1:17.872. But Jordan Pepper was second then. Thomas Breining was third. So I think the pace that we're seeing is actual real pace, race pace. Jules Gounon is ninth at the moment at 1:18.797. So he's about 8/10 off Jordan Pepper's time.
Yeah, so Tommy stays out, goes over the line, a bit slower than the previous lap, so the tyres dropping off a bit. What you also don't know in free practice is when each driver is using their one set of brand new tyres that they can. So some of them won't have used them in this session, some will have used them. We're not party to that information. Maro Engel getting out of the car. Pretty successful session for the German driver, 1:18.644, 6th place, but actually only 11 thousandths of a second away from being 4th, only a 10th away from being in the top 3. So pretty much thereabouts. Jack Aitken's session is run as well, and he'll be fairly optimistic of a good weekend here, given how well he went last year and how well his teammate Thierry Vermeulen went last year as well, and how well the team did at the Nürburgring as well. The checkered flag comes out on the first session. Thomas Breining is still out there pushing on. Nobody lighting up the timing screens in terms of absolute best or personal best sectors at the moment. So it looks like Jordan Pepper is going to end the session quickest with that 1:17.967. That brilliant lap he put in. My favourite thing about that lap was as he went across the line, he sort of nonchalantly just adjusted his seatbelt as if he was driving at 30 kilometres an hour. Super cool. They're very laid back, but that's what they do, these racing drivers. It's just their office. It's just what they do. They slow it all down. And Thomas Breining doesn't complete the lap. It's a pretty steep climb up into the pit lane as well, isn't it? As he's pulled into the Manthey box, which is the first of the boxes as well. So they are nearest the pit lane entry. So Jordan Pepper, Thomas Breining, Fabio Scherer, the top 3. But as Brian said, bigger gap than normal, 6/10 between the top 3, which normally give you the sort of gap between about the top 15 or top 14 in DTM. But as I say, we don't know exactly what everybody's doing. That's Jack Aitken just walking past. First session complete then. Jordan Pepper for TGI Team Lamborghini by GRT Grasser Racing Team. The only driver into the 1:17s, 1:17.967, just under half a second quicker than Thomas Breining in the Manthey EMA Porsche. Fabio Scherer, an excellent effort in the HRT Ford Mustang to go third. Timo Glock, excellent in the Dürr Motorsport McLaren 4th. Mirko Bortolotti, hopes running higher now in the Abt Sports line. Lamborghini, can he get up there for the first time this season? A good start to the weekend for the reigning champion. Maro Engel, Thierry Vermeulen, Ben Durr, Jules Gounon and Nicky Tim in the top 10 as well. Engin Gounon improved late on to go 11th. Jack Aitken finished the session in 12th. Championship leader, Lucas Auer 13th. So the top 2 of the championship, only 12th and 13th. Luca Engstler 14th. Gilles Magnus, the best of the Aston Martins, 15th. Moise Skuring in the Porsche 16th. Ricardo Fellat with some power steering issues was 17th. Callender, Green, Miney, the other drivers in the top 20. René Rast and Marco Wittmann not even in the top 20. A reminder of the championship scenario with 6 races to go, 6 qualifying sessions to go, just 8 points between the top 2. Lucas Auer and Jack Aitken, just 15 between the top 3, and Jordan Pepper quickest in the first competitive session of the weekend. And then you've only got 23 points between the top 6 in the championship, with still 56 points available in each of the remaining 3 race weekends. It's a fairly short turnaround between free practice 1 and free practice 2. So we'll next be in action at 3:30 this afternoon, in about 3 hours' time for free practice 2. Thanks for your company. We'll see you then.